Bob, I realise now, I met him 40 years ago when I went to pick up the keys for a flat I'd been offered in the housing association, and I was told that I had to pick the key up from the responsible tenant, a Mr. Bob Goody. Anyway, we then discovered that we'd both been to RADA and were plying our trade with varying degrees of success. And we've kept in touch. It used to be a thing, every time we met in the street, let's have a pint sometime. 4 months later, shall we have that pint? Yeah, hang on, I'm a bit tied up. Anyway, we really kind of got together when we both realised we were writing poetry and performing it, and we decided to pool forces, which we did as the Bloomsbury Bards. Still available on YouTube, a show we did in the Plough in Bloomsbury. Now this man, obviously, as we know, was hit by the kind of the shit of cancer that we all dread, and has been through the whole thing of the chemo and the whole process of dealing with all of this stuff. But being Bob, he dealt with it by putting out what he calls his trusty Bic, and has just itemised everything and has produced some of the most amazing, funny, sad poetry and just brilliant stuff. And this explosion of material is since the guy got cancer. Now, I know some people who would have curled up into a corner and just waited for the end. Not this man. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Goody!
Whoa! Fantastic! God, there's enough fucking light in here. Evening, what a crowd. Nice of you all to turn out in this ghastly weather, and no trains, and actually there are no trains tomorrow, that's right, isn't it? Anyway, you plough through the snow, ladies and gentlemen, and you're absolutely marvellous. Now, little treat tonight. It's not just me. We have guest readers, ladies and gentlemen, who are going to be turning it on for you. Turning on my material, which will be very interesting. I mean, it could be a disaster, obviously, but we shall see. Always the optimist. Anyway, it's where to start. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stand here. I haven't really said properly. Welcome to Bob Goody, Still Standing. Sitting, which is what I should have said when I came. It's not easy, is it, the nerves? But anyway, what I thought I'd do is start at the very beginning from this book, which covers 40 glorious years, only a tenner, and it's the oldies but goodies. And now this, I started writing my poetry sort of 40 years ago, in 82. Gina insists it's 83. But you can't say 39 glorious years, can you, really? Doesn't have quite the ring about it. So we call it 40 years, 40 years. And then that Christmas I was working down in Plymouth, doing a very heavy-duty version of Frankenstein, written by Stephen Lowe. It's an extraordinary piece. And unfortunately, people thought, because it was a Christmas show and it was Frankenstein, they thought, it's going to be a jolly monster romp, is what they thought. And I can safely say it was anything but. It was very, very dark. And I played the creature, and every night we had people sort of leaving, just gently banging their seats to say that. And but the highlight of the leaving was one scene where I was revealed in bed with Frankenstein's missus, and she was naked and covered in blood. At this point, half the audience left, and this happened every night. It was just unbelievable. Anyway, I divulge. We're God, it's not easy. Anyway, we had this muso called Ronnie, who was a lovely man, and he lived in nearby Totness. And he was planning during rehearsal a sort of leaving bash because he was moving up to London. He was a bit of a local celeb. So he came to me and said, "Bob, I'm doing this, having this do. Would you be up for doing a spot?" And I said, "Well, I don't do spots. You know, I'm not a stand-up." And people thought I was because I'd worked with fucking Mel Smith. But that's not in fact the case. I said, "I'm really sorry, Ronnie, but it's not for me." And he was a bit fed up and went off. Anyway, he came back a week later and he had a poster. And he opened it up and it said, "Ronnie blah-de-blah, guest person, Bob Goody," and then in brackets, "from TV's Smith and Goody." I was a little bit upset about it, but I thought, oh well, what the hell? It'll challenge me. So what I did was I thought, what can I do? And I thought I've often wrote little ditties for myself. I'll try writing a couple of poems, which I did. It was like pulling teeth. Nevertheless, I did. And on the night I did those, I also dragged up a couple of old jokes I knew. I don't know if you... Does everyone here understand what a shaggy dog story is? Yes. Oh, yes. So for those who don't, it's a very, very long poem with no punchline, basically. I mean, they never work. But I have one which is called "This Train Doesn't Stop at Crewe on Fridays." But so it's a long title and a long poem. And I told that, and I told another one about a pot of paint, which I won't... I was going to tell you that joke, but I won't now. But so it went down a storm, and then the show happened after that. So anyway, that's the introduction to a bit lengthy, I know, but the two poems, and I will read both of them. And the first one is called Totness. I've been to London, I've been to Rome, I've been where the birds go with the bees. I've been to Moscow, I've been to Birmingham, I've been to the lavatory. Terrible. It's an old poem. Then one day I met this bloke, and you know what he said to me? He said, "I bet I know a place where you ain't been." And I said, "Bollocks." And I hit him viciously. I'm a violent man at times, I can't help it. I had a bad childhood, you see. Laying there in a pool of blood, he spoke so quietly. He said, "Son?" He said, "Son?" He said, "Son?" He said to me, he said, "Son, I bet you ain't been to Totness. Totness by the sea. Well, not really by the sea, but nearly." I said, Totness? Is that near Loch Ness? Where kilts and cabers be?" He said, "No, you stupid bastard, it's in the West Country." And with those words he passed away up there, down there, who can say? I thought, shit, I've got to mend my ways. I can't keep hitting people day after day. So I combed my head, put on a clean vest, ironed me undies, you know, did my best, headed west. And here I am, in old Totness, nearly by the sea. It's quiet, isn't it? Dull, almost, but friendly, hopefully. Thank you. Not sure that stands the test of time, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, the next one... Oh, God, I got the shakes. It's a hereditary shake, that, you know. It's not nerves, but the nerves on top of the hereditary shake makes it almost impossible to pick up my pint. But we'll see how it goes. It starts splashing around, try and ignore it if I can. Anyway, I ought to, before I start this poem, I ought to mention that the title character and a large number of other characters are no longer with us, ladies and gentlemen. And in fact, the title character left us quite recently, which caused a bit of a hoo-ha. But, however, I still think it's worth reading because it makes me laugh. So, hang on, we've got a nasal issue here. Excuse me a minute. But anyway, the poem is called... it's called The Queen. The Queen, what does she mean? And where does she stand in the modern land? She's got a big house, a big boat, a lot of readies, that's true, but deep down, you know, is she like me and you? I mean, does she do the things that we do? And does she actually sit on the loo and poo? Or does she turn to her maid and say, have a shit for me today? Does she get pissed up with the Duke? Rip all her clothes off? Leap in the bed, leap out again and puke? When abroad and in the sea, does she have a royal wee? Does she take Marge instead of butter? Have sex in the armchair before a takeaway supper? Does she fart in bed and say, sorry about the stench, Phil, I just dropped one, okay? Does she buy a veg from the corner shop, wear skin-tight Levi's, no bra and a sexy top? Does she laugh and cry and scream and say, fucking hell, where have you been? When the Duke arrives home at breakfast time with Charlie's wife and a crate of wine. Does she? No, I don't think so. She's in a different class. Mind you, she must have to wipe her own arse. I mean, she must have sex and fart and drink a bit. It's only natural, isn't it? Thank you. Thank you very much. I swapped hands there, did you see? Yeah. I'm still shaking. This one's shaking as well.
It's made all the difference.
Oh, lovely. And now, while one of the earlier poems as well, and it's sort of rather apt to read it, was called Christmas, and it's soon going to be Christmas, so I thought we'd have a read. Christmas. Christmas, a time for praying. Christmas, a time for saying, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Christmas, the sleigh bells ring. Christmas, a white one with Bing. Just like the ones we used to know. Christmas, all mistletoe and holly. Christmas, so fucking jolly. Sweet Jesus was born. And did you know Bjorn Borg last won Wimbledon in 1980? I looked it up. Christmas, a time for thinking. Christmas, a time for drinking. And then being extremely unpleasant to your nearest and dearest. Thank you. Thank you. Now, what I thought I'd do to give you a sort of a bit of a taste of what might be coming later is to do... not sure I've got the right book here, hang on. No, I haven't. What is to just give you a little taste of things to come, ladies and gentlemen. And so... oh, here we are, I've got it. This is from the Cancer collection, and it's called The Lucky Ones. And for those of you who don't know, and those of you who probably do anyway, I had this problem with cancer. I had my arse removed. I also had the bottom third of my large intestine, my bowel, removed. And so, which they then had to feed the old intestine out into a little hole, they call it the stoma, in my tummy. And then over a bag was put over it, called a colostomy bag, to take the output. Right? And so well, that was all very good. I left hospital, I got home. 5 weeks in hospital, I wasn't at my peak. Similar to now, actually. And this magazine arrived in the post. Big thing from what's it called? Colostomy UK, I think it was. Anyway, I looked into this magazine, and it said, well, if you could pay the prescription. Is it prescription or subscription? Yes, I always get it wrong. No, I want to pay the subscription, and you could have this on the monthly. And also, you said you are now a colostomate. Isn't that nice? I thought, you've got to be kidding, surely. But no, I'm officially a colostomate. So anyway, and I looked through, and there's something that struck me about this magazine. So I had to write a little poem about it, and it's called The Lucky Ones. Got this magazine, Living with a Colostomy, from Colostomy UK, full of pictures of people who are incredibly happy. I mean, incredibly happy. Frolicking through the surf, romancing through the sand dunes, gambling through the dappled woods, all of whom, I assume, are so incredibly happy because they have a bag of shit hanging from their waist. In fact, they seem so much more incredibly happy than the majority of people who are, one could argue, unlucky enough not to have a bag of shit hanging from their waist. So I'm incredibly happy to say I'm one of the lucky ones. Thank you. And now, what I wanted to do, if I can find it, which is ridiculous because you set these things up and the old panic sets in, is now to just read you, for God's sake, the first poem of the here it is, the first poem of the not the cancer collection, the fucking Scary Virus Diaries. And do you all know when lockdown starts? Do you remember the date? No, close. It was in fact the 23rd of March. No, very good though. You get the gold award later. You know, a little glass of something. So anyway, this is my first poem in the diaries collection, and it was written 23rd of March. It's called The Problem. Popped into our mini Sainsbury's this morning to get a paper, a bottle of Rioja and a pint of milk. Essentials. There was a young lady at the coffee machine blocking my passage, as it were. Couldn't get past without possibly brushing her arse. Not safe in any respect. Excuse me, I said, politeness oozing from every pore. Could you move, please? No. She said. I'm getting a coffee. Please, I said, in disbelief. No, she said, I'm getting a coffee. There's plenty of room. It's meant to be 2 meters, I said. Come on, we all have to play the game. She huffed and flattened herself against the coffee machine, giving a clearance, arsehole to gondola, of maybe 1'6" to 2 foot. I left. No paper, no Rioja, no pint of milk, no essentials. And fucking upset, actually. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I think we now come to introducing, ladies and gentlemen, our first guest reader of the evening. A rather wonderful woman. She's someone who acts, produces, collaborates in incredible pieces of work. She has collaborated with her amazing husband John in 5 or is it 6 improvised movies, which are all, you know, pretty fucking good actually. Even though Sam myself, I'm in all of them, but they are, which obviously helps. But yeah, she's quite unique, and her name, ladies and gentlemen, is Ania Motram.
Thank you. This is the most intimidating audience I've ever seen, actually. Not because you're intimidating, but because it's very hard performing for your peers, isn't it? Anyway, it's wonderful to see you all. The first poem I'm going to read is called My Dad and Marilyn. And strangely enough, I only realised recently that what this poem was about, because I don't think I heard it the first time Bob performed it. And it's the fact that his father was born on the same day as Marilyn Monroe. Strangely enough, my father was also born on the same day as Marilyn Monroe, a fact that he was enormously proud of. It was the 1st of June, 1926. Anyway, so this reading is for Ken and Tony. My dad was born on the same day as Marilyn Monroe. Then they went their separate ways. Dad was no looker, never shagged a president, never flashed his underwear where the wind blew, never knew Tony Curtis. However, Marilyn didn't know her way around a cathode ray tube, didn't open the batting for the MCC, Moulscombe Cricket Club, and didn't teach me everything I know about fly fishing. So, in the scheme of things, I'd say my dad was a better dad than Marilyn Monroe would ever have been. We have 2 poems now written by Bob about being in the plough. Anyone who knows him has seen him there many times. Nipped to the plough for a late one. Delicious pint of Abbott ale. Sitting in the corner, wishing January would go away. Very loud bloke at the bar, talking at the Hungarian barmaid about the markets plateauing. She doesn't know what the fuck he's on about. She's nodding a lot, nervously scratching a spot on her nose, smiling with her mouth closed. Her mate from work, or his mate from work, has just moved to Hungary. He tells us all, a fresh start, smashing people, darling, and presumably no plateauing. I wish he'd fuck off and join them. This is another one set in the plough. Bumped into a unicyclist in the toilet of my local pub. His unicycle was leaning up against the bowl of the loo, where you would normally do a number 2, which is how I knew he was a unicyclist. Wasn't dressed as a clown, had the full suit and tie. Is that your unicycle, I asked, fumbling with my fly. Yes, he said, why? Oh, do you ride it as a bike, I asked again. He looked at me as if I was, as it were, 1 spoke short of a full wheel. Tucked himself away, washed his hands, took up his unicycle and left. A short while later, back in the bar with a pint too far, I glanced out of the window and there he was, passing a parked car, signalling left with both hands into Coptic Street. Thank you.
Oh, how good, eh? It works, this. Brilliant. Possibly better. Yeah, no, what's that? Bit of a worry. 28th of March, 5 days after the lockdown, 2020. This is called I Have to Say. Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has got coronavirus. I have to say, when I heard, I was really pleased. Appalling, I know. However, I feel better now I've come clean. But I have to say, I still feel the same way. Thank you. And now we're moving on to our next reader, ladies and gentlemen. A very wonderful, beautiful young lady. And before I introduce her properly, I just want to explain something to certain people, youngsters amongst you, about the whole thing of unemployment. 30 odd years ago or more, you had to, it was called sign on the dole, and you had to do this once a week. You had to turn up at the unemployment benefit office, which was like a shithole. I mean, it was really horrible. And you had to queue up. and then you get to the counter, which they then treated you like dirt, and you had to sign, as I remember, and they sort of just looked you up and down, and off you went. At the end of the week, you got a very small cheque, and you were able to go out and have a pint and a bag of nuts. And that was, that was it. So I say this, which just makes it a little bit clearer, as I introduce this young lady who I have known since the day she was born, ladies and gentlemen. I am talking about Sophie Goody.
Thank you. Oh, I'm really nervous. I'm not a performer. Right, I chose this poem because when Bob asked me if I wanted to read tonight, he said I could pick whatever, and that's quite an overwhelming thing to do. And then I thought back to what are the poems I remember as a little girl, and I didn't really understand what this was about or who it was about, but I still found it really funny. And I know my sisters agree with me. And as Bob would say, it contains one of the greatest lines of poetry ever written. So it's funny who you meet down the dole, isn't it? Signed on the other morning. I'm unemployed, you see. Bumped into Omar Sharif. Seemed a little odd to me. I thought he was working. I said, Omar, you old bastard, what are you doing here? Hello, knob, he said. I've had a fucking dreadful year. Join the club, I said. So we went down the pub for a beer and some grub. I sat here, he sat there. Talked about Lawrence of Arabia and how the sun gets everywhere. He still suffers, apparently. Then it was Dr. Bleeding Zhivago. Don't half go on, Omar. Chilblains and Julie Christie and fucking Rod Steigar. Couldn't get him out the bar. He likes his pint of bitter as well. Time for home, Omar, I said. The pyramids, the Nile, they beckon. I want another pint of IPA, he said. How much is that, do you reckon? Bit of loose change, all he had. Very sad. So I got him one more. He passed out on the floor. Spit and chewed sarnie all down the Armani. Bloody Omar. I was really pissed off, actually. He'd gone too far. He'd become a chore. My nerve endings were raw, as it happens. Collar job it was. Out the door, onto the street. Managed to get him back on his feet. Such a relief. So there we were. Me and Omar Sharif, covered in shit. It's funny you meet down the dole, isn't it?
Outstanding. I might have to give up. Oh, that was amazing. And the greatest line ever written was?
Spit and chewed sarnie all down the Armani.
Oh, you can't do that. Fucking hell. Outstanding stuff. It beats the, what was the other one? The Gap. I can't remember now. No, about arsehole to gondola. That's quite funny. Anyway, I must stop patting myself on the back. It's appalling. Anyway, this next is I Have to Say Too. Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has... Sorry. Start again. Fuck. Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has been taken into intensive care. That's serious. I mean, he could die. I didn't want him dead. I just like the idea, it has to be said, of him suffering a bit. Like the masses of people suffering and dying on a daily basis under his leadership. Thank you. Yeah, you know, yeah. A bit militant. And on to our next reader, ladies and gentlemen. One of the funniest ladies in the country, who's, I was going to say the oldest, so I've got to get this right. One of the, she has been one of the top comic actresses forever, and is still at it and still being brilliant. I just love her, and I'm sure you do too. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Alison Steadman.
Well, I feel very privileged to be here to read a poem written by this man. I am such a fan of Bob, and I love him to bits. Thank you, Bob, for all your work. And this poem is about something I'm sure that we've all suffered with, and that's confidence. Confidence. I lost mine recently. Couldn't find it anywhere. I was sure I'd left it in the boozer, but it definitely wasn't there. I went back several times to check. I thought it might be in bed, beneath the duvet. I lay down all day looking for it, but it wasn't there either. Tried the fridge. Perhaps I'd corked it inside the bottle of Sauvignon. The bottle had gone. Checked beneath the cling film, covering the leftover delights I'd cooked the night before. An exquisite mushroom dish, not resembling delights anymore. Oh, then I sat down to write, but I couldn't. It was shite. Rhyming right with shite was the best I could manage. So I went for a stroll on that firm sand by the sea with my girly rucksack, a ham roll, a Mars bar and a flask of warm tea. Considered the demise of Test cricket. Were they suffering a similar crisis to me? Oh, confidence, where are you? I cried. Then I turned and I saw it. Pure confidence personified. There, in full stride, totally at ease, an old man. Naked. Save for a rucksack and boots, bollocks bobbing in the breeze. And you could say, in a way, he rubbed off on me.
I mean, comic genius, Alison.
You wrote it.
Yeah, that's true. But I've never read it as well. That's true, actually. I wrote it. No, yeah, fair point. And so we move. Have we had this one yet? No, we haven't. This is 9th of April, 2020. I have to say 3. Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is out of intensive care. Along with the Queen, Stanley, his dad, Dominic Raab, Matt Hancock, 10-year-old Rishi Sunak, Donald Trump, Nikki fucking Campbell, the Daily Mail and endless obsequious commentators and journalists. I have to say, our prayers have been answered. That's such a huge relief. Thank you. Please don't take me seriously. Right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am introducing one of my truly greatest pals who has been there for me since in nearly 50 years. And he's been brilliant during all the shit I've been going through. He's a fantastic man, a brilliant writer. Oh, I'm filling up. I'm getting all emotional. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the extraordinary Richard Cotton.
Talking about.
What Bob hasn't told you, this is a bit of a grouch from the guest readers, is that he says you can read whatever you want, but be warned, somebody might read one of yours before you.
I did say that.
Yeah, it's not worked out well for me. It's not worked out well for me at all, but I've got a very strong bench.
Oh, no.
I'm pulling a couple off the bench. I've done my preparation, as you can see.
Oh, no, mate.
No, fair enough.
No, I'm sorry.
Right. No, I've got that's a good attitude. I'm fine. No, calm down, Lobby, calm down. You need to reserve your energy, mate. Come on. This is an oldie and a goldie. This is from right at the beginning as well. This is called Sitting on the Toilet. Sitting on the toilet, trying to pass my life, picking dried out meat from my teeth with a knife. A giant turd drops into the ocean. A part of me goes through the motions, round the U-bend, down the sewer, and out to sea, without me. My guts mixing with the sharks. My guts mixing with the sharks. Life doesn't change even when you're having a shit. Well, I've got a couple. Take the mood down a bit here. I've got a couple here. Heaven, it's called The End. Heaven knows where we goes when it's finally over. Heaven knows if we close or start another chapter. Heaven knows why we chose to come here in the first place. Heaven knows why my nose is stuck here on my face. Right, I got one more. Just one more, mate.
Go on, mate. I'm loving it, mate.
But these are surprising you, aren't they? You didn't think I'd go for these.
It's beautiful.
Right, it's called For a Bit. I'd like to get out on a boat and float for a bit. I'd like to get in a bed and be fed for a bit. I'd like to go to the moon quite soon for a bit. I'd like to just be and see for a bit. I'd like to smile and hold back the bile for a bit. I'd like to walk in them there hills and not talk for a bit. I'd like to drink beer with my mind clear for a bit. And then, when all the boating and floating, bedding and fedding, mooning, quite sooning, being and seeing, smiling and not biling, walking and talking, beering with mind clearing, is done, I'll return. And I'll take the fuckers on again. There you go.
Yeah, so should have this mistake. It's amazing. Well, what's beautiful about all this, I have to say, is how people like what Rick's done and what Alison did, and it was before. Oh, Soph is taking. Can't be too careful. I'll suffer for that later. Is everyone taking a different take on the poetry from me? I mean, it's really. I've found it rather moving. So, choking up here. Lovely. Thank you, everybody, so far. And here we have 12th of April, 2020. I have to say 4. Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is out of hospital on Easter Sunday. The son of Stanley is risen from the almost dead. Let's hope he wanders about a bit, as is traditional, but not for too long. Then ascends, I have to say, to somewhere a fuck of a long way from here. Thank you. Talking of great comic talents, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce another one now in the male form. Very, very extraordinary man who is probably most famous in everyone's eyes for a mad company he formed many, many moons ago called the National Theatre of Brent. Just genius. And I was very lucky to do one of those shows with him. And my God, did we have a good time, did we not? I don't even remember it anymore. Anyway. But fabulous. And the man is sort of a unique comic genius. I think I can safely say that and hold my head up high. So, ladies and gentlemen, the hugest welcome to Patrick Barlow, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I can't. I haven't got my glasses on. Oh, I have. There we are. I'm doing what you do.
What, panic?
This is a good one. I found this one early. I was planning this, walking from the restaurant where we was having our dinner, with Bob on the phone. Will you get here straight away, please? Where are you? Where are you, anyway? You can't read that one. That's being read. This is a good one. He told me this was a good one. No, read that. That's a good one. The Taxman. We'll all relate to this. I owe the taxman loads of money. I wonder if he'll understand when I tell him I have a wife and 3 kids and things haven't exactly been going as planned. And when I proffer my hand, will he take it and shake it and say, "Don't worry, Knob, pay us when you can." This is a fantasy, this isn't it? You're a decent man, it's only money. Let me buy you a beer. It's funny how people live in fear of us. I wonder, what's a few grand between friends? I understand we can bend the rules. We can bend the rules. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. We can bend the rules.
Don't say the line 3 times.
Okay. Sorry. I've got a family myself. Times are hard. On the other hand, I wonder if you'll say, "Pay up today, you wretched little cunt," or I'll rip your knob off. It's impossible to know which way he'll go on this one. Thank you. I first met Bob at the Sheffield Crucible when I was playing Dame in, what was it, Jack and the Beanstalk?
Oh, yes, Mel Smith.
Mel Smith directed it and was rather horrible to you.
Yes, yeah.
And and he was Bob was playing the thinnest man in the world. Do you want to do your song?
I don't particularly.
Oh, okay.
I
It's
don't
good.
remember it though.
No, it was good. It's a good song. I sometimes wake up singing it. Which gives my wife a bit of a shock.
Maybe later when everyone's gone.
Yeah. This is The Actor Alone, which some of us will also relate to. Life is so hard in the shadow of the bard, because when you go to bed and realise he's dead, I did a double then, didn't I? There's no one to talk to in the morning. I found that strangely moving. This is a good one. It's better be. It's funny who you meet at the traffic lights, isn't it? Oh no! Oh my God! I was stood next to Yoko Ono at the traffic lights at the bottom of Gower Street. Slightly overcome, it has to be said, I stared at her in disbelief. She felt my glare and stared back at me, none too pleasantly. I smiled, she didn't. we had an uncomfortable moment. When I was young, people said I looked like John Lennon. And bizarrely, my middle daughter, Shona, entered this world at the very hour John departed. So I wondered, as we stood there, waiting for the green man, if Yoko thought, shit, that's what John would have looked like today if he hadn't been shot. Which is probably why she looked at me none too pleasantly. It's funny what you meet, who you meet at the traffic lights, isn't it? Oh, thank you very much. He's just given me the look, which is get off. Anyway, have we got a show for you tonight? Have we got a show for him tonight? Oh, sorry. All right, off we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. A unique human being, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Patrick Barlow. Extraordinary stuff. Right, I have to say, 5. Our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has had a baby. Well, his girlfriend, whose name escapes me, has. Another distraction. They've named him Wilfred, after the actor who played the rag and bone man, Albert Steptoe, in the legendary 60s sitcom. P.S. It's just come to me. Boris's girlfriend is called Carrie, named after the character brilliantly played by Sissy Spacek in the deeply disturbing, blood-soaked, legendary 70s horror film of the same name. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce, I was going to introduce Patrick and his daughter, who's a very beautiful, rather brilliant actress, together, but I've sensed it might be easier to do them separately. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Niamh Barlow, who I think you are going to do something, aren't you? Yes, brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful, truly special lady, Niamh Barlow.
Thank you so much. Bob, thank you so much for letting me read.
Oh, we're not letting you. I'm very pleased.
I've enjoyed tonight a lot, so thank you.
Well, don't go.
No.
Don't nip off when you've done that.
Okay. Oh, it's actually quite intimidating, isn't it? Oh, okay. So this is the 25th of April, 2020, from Bob's brilliant War and Paracetamol, The Bic is Back, the Cancer Collection, which I would totally recommend buying if no one has yet.
Keep going.
So this poem is called Queue. Was in the queue, 2 metres apart, obviously, for the butchers, one in, one out, the lady in front of me on the phone telling a tearful tale of death, 5 weeks in and nothing had changed. 2 blokes, possibly pissed, brushed past me. One of them swaggered to second place in the queue. He looked around, beaming, willing a response. I glared. He wilfully coughed. His rugged-faced mate giggled. I glared on. Come on, he shouted, grinning, open-mouthed. Reluctantly, I looked away, along with everyone else. The 2 goons disappeared into the chippy next door, laughing hysterically. We continued to queue as if nothing had happened. I've got one more, if that was okay,
Yes,
which is also about angry, mad men. Don't know why I chose these. Okay, so this is from the 14th of May 2020, and it's called We're Fucked. We're fucked. We're fucked. We're all fucked. I'm fucked. You're fucked. The fucking government's fucked. We're all fucked. Yelled the angry young man into his mobile phone in Bloomsbury Square, looking around, breathing heavily, eyes blazing, ready to take on all comers. I ducked behind a statue of Charles James Fox, the Magna Carta in hand, just in case. He thought I was fucked as well. Can you hear me, man? He screamed. This appeared to produce a reply he was, quite obviously, not happy with. Fucking what? Man, you're fucked too, man, he screamed. You're not with me. Can't you see? We're all fucked. I peeped out from behind the statue as his expressive back was passing the all-star bowling alley, then stopping at the crossing. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nell. Lovely. It's interesting stuff. Now, are you all right from it if I just read a few more poems before we have a break? Yeah, well, I thought I'd continue with the diaries, ladies and gentlemen, which is all very, but I'm jumping about, so we sort of see some progression here, because they do go on a bit, and there's a year and a half of the fuckers, so let's be real. Anyway, so the 2nd of April 2020, which is only a week later than the lockdown, and I don't know what it was like for those of you who don't live in central London, but central London, where we all live, it was like a ghost town. It was extraordinary. You just couldn't quite believe what had happened. There was nothing going on, and which prompted me to write this, and it's called The End of the Fucking World. Out on the street this morning, I began to wonder if me and the 6 people and the baby in a pram and the fat ugly dog I passed in Bloomsbury Square from a distance of at least 2 metres, obviously, and the number 38 bus driver in his empty bus, and the Domino Pizza cyclist, and the Royal Mail van man, and the Tesco van man, and the everyday waste disposal man, and the red Datsun car driver, and the frightened old lady in the 2nd floor window I saw on my way to Sainsbury's to buy essentials, paper, rioja, milk and a beer, were the last people and the last fat ugly dog and the last baby in a pram alive on earth. So I sat on a bench, wondered further if all 15 of us should gather now, here, in Bloomsbury Square, 2 metres apart, obviously. Can't afford to lose anyone else at this stage, and make a plan for the future of mankind. But when I looked up to gather my flock, I was totally alone. Not one person, not one fat ugly dog, not one baby in a pram, even the frightened old lady in the window had disappeared. It was just me on my own, very much alone. No point going to Sainsbury's now, I mumbled. Went home. My wife was still there, alive, making sardines on toast. My grandson was still in bed, asleep. The remains of his 2 a.m. feast, macaroni, cheese and frankfurters, congealed by his side, and Coco the cat, who was also asleep, in my place, on the sofa. Just the 4 of us left in the world. Not exactly Adam and Eve, but it's a start. Thank you. Thank you. Now, oh no, it's not. It's gone too far. I've gone a step too far. Sorry, bear with me. See, and even the hands aren't working. It's hopeless. So, yes, now, here we are. In amongst the carnage, ladies and gentlemen, something rather wonderful was going on and it was a moment of wonder. And it all happened on the 7th of April 2020, and it is called The Beauty. At 4:52 a.m. approximately this morning, my very beautiful daughter, Shona, one of 3 very beautiful daughters, with the help of beautiful midwife Johnny, her beautiful man, gave birth in their bedroom, somewhat more swiftly than she had in mind, to a beautiful baby girl by the name of Dolores Joy, while slightly emotional, beautiful Grandma Gina and slightly more emotional, beautiful daughter Constance nervously listened in, at least 2 metres away, obviously, from across the hall. Beautiful baby Dolores cried, eager for an early brekker. Beautiful euphoric Shona equally eagerly sorted brekker one she had to hand that she prepared earlier. Beautiful midwife Johnny, who, up until approximately 4:30 a.m, had just been plain beautiful Johnny, with beautiful daughter Constance and beautiful Grandma Gina 2 metres away, obviously, looked on in awe and wonder and a few joyous tears as the paramedics arrived, having just missed this extraordinary moment of the beauty. Thank you. I'm probably thinking I'll do two more and then we'll have a little beer break, shall we? Good idea? We probably could do without Andrew wilting. Something awful over there. Right. So this first one is called Anniversary, and it was the 10th of June. A year ago today, I had my arse removed surgically, and a substantial portion of my large bowel was also amputated. Now my arse pokes out of my tummy. Funny, if it weren't so personal, where a bag awaits the output. If it happened today, the surgeon would have to operate from 2 metres away. And who knows where my arse would have ended up. Thank you. God, it makes me laugh. Isn't it? A dangerous area. I was laughing at it before I say it. Now, does anyone know another date to guess at? Why the 8th of July was of 2020 was so significant, ladies and gentlemen?
The pub's open.
Pardon?
The pub's open.
Yes. Yes. Who said that? Absolutely outstanding. Thank you. Yes. And this poem, dated the 8th of July, is called First Pint. Please wait to be seated, said the notice by the door of the plough. I waited. Please hand san, another notice. I hand sanned, splashing cleansing gloop on my groin in the process. What would you like, sir? The masked barman called out, probably smiling, from behind the perspex sheeting. I followed the one-way arrows to the bar, furiously rubbing away with the paper mask at the unfortunate wet patch by my zip. Ah, hello, I said. Hello, sir, he said. You all right there? Oh, yes, well, no, I said, scanning the pumps. I'd like a pint of Abbott, I said, gleefully. A request I'd been imagining since late March I would never utter again. The Abbott's off, sir, I'm afraid, sir, he said. Ah, right. Shit, sorry. Well, scanning again. A pint of tribute, then, I said. The tribute is off, I'm afraid, sir, as well, sir, he said. Is it? I said, bristling slightly. Do you have any ales? I asked. Mild tension colouring my natural bonhomie. Oh, yes, sir, the IPA, sir, he said. The IPA. Well, why didn't you say the IPA was the only beer you had on today? I didn't know what you wanted, sir, he said. A deep breath. He pulled my beer. Are you new here? I asked. No, sir, he said. This is my local, I said. I don't remember seeing you. I've been here since late March, sir, he said. But the pub's been closed since then. I said. I know, sir, he said. Sensing the conversation was going nowhere, I paid and made my way along the arrows to the exit door and sat at a small table, awaiting delivery of my beer, miles from another table, on a desolate, windy street, thinking, I've been looking forward to this moment for 108 days. Fuck. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I tell you what, I just read this one as well, sorry, because it sort of they all sort of go together. Does anyone know why the 8th of December was an important date in 2020? Anyone? No. Well, you're about to find out. Yes, it's called the greatest. We have a vaccine! We have a vaccine! And we, the self-proclaimed greatest nation in the world, with the greatest jabologists in the world, have come up with it first. Of course, ahead of all the other somewhat inferior stupid nations. Mrs. Old from Coventry, who is 161, a 3-dart finish, treble top, treble 17 bull, was the first person in the world to get the jab at 6:31 this morning, approximately. Injected in her upper left arm, we were told, by one of our greatest nurses in the world, while more flashing cameras than you've had hot dinners flashed. We watched, mesmerised, as Mrs. Old was wheeled through a cheery, clappy, greatest nurses in the world guard of honour, with Mrs. Old quite obviously wondering what the fuck was going on. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Are we all here? Are we on it? Right, a couple of little ones to get us in the mood for part 2. If I can find this is called My Hat. Just shouted at my hat. Accused it of jumping up on our mini snooker table and ruining the baize. It won't do that again. Thank you. Dreadful stuff. This is called Bloomsbury Sights. You know, the thing about Bloomsbury is that there's the British Museum, ladies and gentlemen, but, you know, goodness me, there's a lot of other really interesting stuff. And, as I say, this is called Bloomsbury Sights. Lady, standing absorbed in her novel in the middle of the pavement on Southampton Row at 7:30 a.m. Man, quite troubled, sat warming himself by a small fire on the path in Bloomsbury Square. Lady, lost, confused, glaring at her mobile on Great Russell Street, can't find the British Museum directly opposite. Man, watering trees in Lincoln's Inn Fields. Apparently, the council are importing loads of trees at vast expense, then can't afford to water them, so they die. I spy a tear in his eye. It's mad and sad. Man sat leaning against a tree in a sleeping bag in Bloomsbury Square, reading The Guardian, coffee on the side. Woman on an electric scooter almost clipped my heels as I cross the crossing on Montague Street. Oi! I cry. Fuck off! The reply. The Bloomsbury sites. Not sure if it was before, but this is the norm now. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce a very special man, been a very special pal, I'm filling up again, for years and years and years. And we formed the Bloomsbury Bards, and we had lots of fun with all that. And he's a very special friend and a wonderful poet and a wonderful human being, ladies and gentlemen. I'll go no further but to introduce Andrew Cuspar, as we know him.
Too kind by half. I love that. What Bob just did, that's a strand of his work I really love. That just observational stuff of everyday stuff that just is absolutely brilliant. I've got a couple of them in that vein. The blind man stood at the counter buying his shopping. 2 meters behind him, approximately, stood the heavily tanned lady, chatting on her shocking pink mobile phone. 2 meters behind her, approximately, stood me, laden with fresh bread, Earl Grey tea, the ripest tomatoes, basil, and the essential chilled Chilean naciente. Suddenly, the tan exclaimed, "Could be some time. I'm behind a man pretending to be blind with a white stick." I audibly gasped. The tan swung round, mimicked my gasp, rolled her wild eyes, and left. Walking back through St Andrew's Gardens, heading towards the Gray's Inn Road, 2 red-faced men were sat on a bench, cans in hand. The more pissed man said, "Excuse me, have you got any change? I need 46p for my next can." "No, sorry," I said. "Only got 44p. Gave him a quid. I admired his honesty. "That's for your next can," I said. "And 56p for your next can. After the next can." "Thanks, Colonel," he said. "I'm in for a long day." "I'll say," I said. "Enjoy." "Oh, I most certainly will," he said, casually tossing his empty can over his head and into the bin. "Good shot," I said. "I'm well practised, Colonel," he cackled, as I moved on towards the Gray's Inn Road. There's another one. Had to get a walking stick because my neuropathy, pins and needles, numbness in my feet has made me all wobbly. I was in the hardware store on Southampton Row in search of potting compost. An old fella was at the counter as I entered, buying a light bulb. He turned to leave, stopped abruptly. "Where's my stick?" he blurted, loudly at the shopman, who looked blank, confused. Then he saw me, saw my stick. "That's my stick," he growled, accusingly. "No, it's not," I said, astonished. "It's my stick." "That's your stick," I said, pointing to the stick leaning up against the pile of buckets directly in front of him. "Oh," he grunted. "Well, it's a nicer stick than your stick," he said. "No, it's not," I said. "I wasn't having it." "Wrong again." "Ah, but my stick's got the silver strip," he said. An 80-year-old going on 8, pointing to the silver foil at the tip of his stick. "Ah, yourself," I said. My stick's got a stag's antler as the grip, I said. A 70-year-old going on 7. All right, he grumbled, holding his hands in a position of submission. And he left with his inferior stick. But without his light bulb. There's another one. The slightly bedraggled man in Tesco on Good Street was studying the deodorants at some length. Nivea for men, Nivea Pearl and Beauty, a personal favourite. Lynx, Right Guard, Shore Bright Bouquet. Finally, plumping for Nivea for men. Then, without so much as the slightest glance left or right, he unbuttoned his shirt, giving each armpit 2 generous squirts, placed the Nivea for men back on the shelf, buttoned up his shirt, now taking in my gape-mouthed self as if to say, "What's your problem?" Then headed off with a deep sniff of pleasure to Good Street, all smiles refreshed. And I'll just finish another little one in a slightly different mode. It's called Made My Day. "You look like a beautiful couple," said the young man with the can of Adnam's Ghost's Ship in his hand on Tottenham Court Road this cloudy morn. "Sorry?" I said, thinking he must have uttered something unpleasant. He repeated. I heard. "Oh," I said, "thank you." "You really do," he said. "Makes my heart flutter." We smiled. "It does," he said. "Makes it all flutter." "Thank you," I said again. "You've made my day." "And mine," he said. Waved the can and stumbled on. "What a lovely man," I said. Thanks very much.
Okay, we'll have another guest up in a minute. Lovely stuff, Andrew, thank you. This is called Nanny Parker.
Yeah.
Met Nanny Parker, who I loved, my mother's mother, in my dreams last night. Quite a surprise, haven't seen her for over 40 years. She just appeared, tiny. My grandma, at 4'11", all 4'11" of her, a brilliant self-taught pianist and a master ready-cut rug maker. She walked over and gave me a huge hug and held me for a long time, longer than the average hug, as if to say, everything is going to be all right. Tears were welling as she looked up, smiling. No words, just open, beautiful smile. Then I woke from the best night's sleep I've had in months. Thank you. Thank you. I keep going. This is called Release. Gina was sewing Christmas napkins very deliberately on the sofa next to me. "I don't want to poke you in the eye with a noodle," said Gina. We both laughed. "Have to write that down," I said, which I have. Gina was hysterical. After a tricky week, it was just what we noodled. Thank you very much. Nick, Happy As this is called. Nick annoying Robinson on the Today programme on Radio 4 has just informed us a man in America has been given a pig's heart. Not slow roasted in mint and rosemary sauce with cheesy mash and broccoli, but for life. A replacement for the man in America's Dicky Ticker, which was knackered. Apparently, on his first night home from the hospital, he went into the woods, stripped naked, and rolled around in mud and his own shit. For days. Happy as. Thank you. I should probably just finish off these, I have to say, says. I have to say 6. It appears our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, enjoys a few beers with his muckers, while other people who aren't Prime Ministers, without their muckers, die. Sober. I have to say that at the end of the day, someone really should drag Boris out of the Commons by his ridiculous hair, or his bollocks, I'm happy with either, and dump him in the Thames. Rubbish, not recyclable. Preferably when the current is heading seawards, before he causes any more mayhem and death. Thank you. Now for another guest reader, ladies and gentlemen. Very lovely lady, lovely actress, a neighbour and a great pub person you can't find better. Ladies and gentlemen, I am referring to the gorgeous Patsy, wherever you are. Where are you?
I'm here, I'm coming.
Oh, there you are. There she is. She's trying to hide. Are you all right? Don't you need more time?
I can't tell you how nerve-wracking it is not to know the running order. And I forgot to ask. I'm a neighbour.
Yes, if you asked.
I know, I didn't, I forgot.
No,
I was just an
I
idiot.
did like that, see, for the element of surprise.
Oh God, okay, well.
It worked, didn't it?
It did. Nervous wreck now. I'm so thrilled that you have asked me to read. So this is one of my favourites that you've ever done. It's a bit rude, but you knew I'd pick this one.
No, rude's good.
It's called Ode to a Dildo. Found this dildo on the beach, under a rock, wrapped in seaweed. Never seen a real live cock that size. Huge it was, made my eyes water just looking at it. Thought about the dildo's tail. A young couple set sail one day, maybe, for a romantic soiree at sea. He had purchased the latex beast for £99.99 at Ann Summers on the High Street and kept it for a special occasion. Once on the ocean, he prepared his love potion, large vod and ton, chilled Sauvignon, smoked salmon and caviar just to set the mood, to get a bit rude. Some fairy lights round the bar. They drank and they nibbled. They fumbled and fiddled. They wriggled and jiggled as well. As the sun set in the west, he ripped off his vest and whipped out his latex surprise. Now, what then ensued was, well, extremely a bit rude, with all those sighs and cries and stuff. A sexual feast was had with the beast. I'm surprised they didn't run out of puff, to be honest. However, in all the furore, no one manned the rudder. So the climax to the story involved a freak storm and a rock. which proved a bit of a bugger at the peak of their passion. The boat capsized. They went down with a smile and watery eyes. What became of their bodies, no one will know. All that's left in their memory is that giant dildo. I stood for a while and pondered. Then I wandered into town. I'd like one of those enormous dildos in the window, I said, to the rather attractive young lady in the Ann Summers shop on the High Street. Certainly, sir, she said to me. That'll be £19.99, please. Her eyes seemed a little watery as she took hold of the beast with both hands. Would you like it wrapped? She said. No, thanks, I said. Just pop it in a bag. I'm going sailing, I said. I don't want to miss the tide. She smiled a wide smile. Would you like to come along for the ride? I said.
Wow. Well, that was magnificent. It's a bit of a fave of mine, that one. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to get it in, if you pardon the expression. So, I know, it's shocking. Sporting heroes. All of us who like sport, we tend to have sporting heroes. So here's a couple, ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce our next reader. And this is called Gary Lineker. Gary Lineker, tremendous, obviously. Such a tasty geezer. If he died, I wouldn't have him fried. I'd keep him in the freezer for a special occasion. Thank you. And this is called Martina. Martina Navratilova, a household name from here to Dover, has hung up her racket. She made a packet, looked good in a jacket, had a lot of balls, in the tennis sense, that is. And if I had a dog, I wouldn't call it Fido, I wouldn't call it Rover. I'd name it after my hero and call it Clint. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, what can I say about our next guest? He's a man. He is probably one of our greatest living comics, ladies and gentlemen. And many, many moons ago, he invented this extraordinary character called Stavros, and we all thought, fucking hell, that's brilliant. And he followed it up with loads of money and has continued to be brilliant and incredibly funny. And I feel quite honoured to be his pal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Harry Enfield, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Bob. I'd just like to say how lovely it is to be here. I first met, well, I didn't actually meet him. I wouldn't call it really a meeting. I was 20 and I was at university and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I had a new girlfriend called Jane Black. And she was nice, but she liked the theatre. That was the downside. She said, do you want to go and see a play at the York Arts Centre? So I said, yes, that would be great. The way you do with a new girlfriend. And I went to see a play, and it was Bob and Patrick doing the Black Hole of Calcutta. And they played all the Indians and all the English and everyone. And I remember one bit, Bob stood there and went, wow. I don't know why, I can't remember that. I think it was the shriek, the howl of the Indians rebelling or something, but he went, wow, and that was it. And it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. the show was, Patrick included, hard to believe that tonight. It was the funniest thing I'd seen since Monty Python. And then afterwards, I remember we were in the bar and they were there and I went, great show. And they went, thanks. Looked away. And I thought, oh God, I wish I hadn't said that. And a couple of months later, a friend of mine said, do you fancy writing a show, a comedy show? And I went, yes. And that was the beginning of my career. I never would have said yes. I would have said you're out of your mind. Had I not seen that. So it really means a lot to me to be here today. Okay? That's that. Right. You didn't want to know any of that. So, one of the things we know about Bob is he's the master of the anticlimax. And so I'd like to start with an illustration of that. Freedom. It's great to live in a free state where you can do what you want, when you want, say what you like, when you like, and never come to any harm. Of course, you might go to prison, you might get beaten up because of the colour of your skin, or shot, and get left to die on the floor, but that's the luck of the draw. In any society, we're very lucky, aren't we, to be free. I want to go for a wee now, but I can't because the train's in the station. This is so... Anyone who is new to Bob, no one here. Well, Claudie, my girlfriend, she will have learnt by now that Bob likes a pub. This is sitting alone in a pub, observing all the lonely, unhappy people who are looking at me. Oh yeah, next page. Sorry, because Bob said, well, it's the luck of the draw if people do them, but do about 5. So I put them down and I've been scrolling them off. But I put down about 25 and I've got 23 left. But I will cut some out, I promise. The trip. I tripped and stumbled in the street. My feet stopped working for a split second. People giggled, hands over mouths, trying to be discreet. I lurched forward, out of control, arms whirling madly. A fireman sat in his fire engine, hooted with laughter. The postman sat outside the cafe, found it pretty funny as well. I finally regained control, stood, puffing, sweating, feeling a total prat. Picked up my hat, tried to smile it off. But the fireman had gone, to put out a fire, I expect. The postman had also moved on. Conversationally, should Matt Letizia be in the starting lineup for the Romania game? I felt naked, stupid. I wanted my mother to take me in her arms and cuddle me and tell me everything was going to be all right. But it's not like that, is it, life? So I glared at my feet and wandered on, but I couldn't help thinking for the rest of the day, I bet that sort of thing doesn't happen to Matt Le-fucking-Tizier. Oh yes. Try and move on. Oh yes. I do not understand this either. 3. Whenever I meet and greet a fellow being in the street, they look at my face, then look at my feet. They don't look at my face, then look at my chest or my belly or that area of my trouser where my bits are in hauser. Or my knees or my delicate ankles. They look at my face and go straight to my feet. What is it about feet that has to be checked out? Everyone does it. I have 2, the same as you. If I had 3, I could see it as a peculiarity. But I have 2, which is about normal, I think. where feet are concerned. Do they think they might be webbed, having looked at my face? Do they take me to be some sort of water-based creature? It's a mystery to me. I do not understand this either. Now, I'm going to move forward because I know we've got a lot to go through. So I'm going to go to 136. Now, as you get older, men, all the women will know, we moan a lot about everything. In fact, my girlfriend said to me the other day, God, it's like living with a letter to Barry Took. Why do they do that? And I'm very glad to say that Bob is also one of these people. But, you see, I'll read the thing. Fellow Bloomsbury bard Andrew and I developed the occasional series, The Thing About, as a means of getting hate, bile, loathing, etc., for things and people out of our systems. Poetic bardy therapy, you might say. Well, I've got to develop that. I've got to start writing poems rather than being a letter to Barry Took. And this is called The Thing About Simon Cowell. The thing about Simon Cowell is not that his teeth don't look like real teeth, that his hair is square and doesn't look like real hair, that his waist is just below his face, that the smirk on that face with those teeth and that hair just above his waist is the smirk of a self-satisfied arsehole. It said he has made a large fortune out of giving the nation the opportunity to laugh uncontrollably at totally untalented people. I might be wrong, but I don't think that's right. Now, I'm going to do one more.
Yeah, we might have to wind it up a bit.
Oh, good. I'm going to wind it up. Thank you very much. Thank you. No. Blimey.
Don't panic, Harry.
I never thought that day in the York Arts Centre I'd be heckled by... Okay, this is just to me really Bob's sort of character in once. Sorry, I didn't put those things in. Yeah. The old man was sat on a bench, gazing out to sea, hands in the pockets of his jacket. Seemed so content to me, gazing out to sea. Can I join you? I asked. Of course, he said. Sit down, young man, feel free. Take the weight off, make yourself at home, he said. Don't mind me. Enjoy the view. I'll be glad of the company. I sat on the bench and joined him. We both gazed out to sea. He offered me a cuppa from the flask in his small wicker basket on his knee. We sat in silence for a long, long while, gazing and sipping our tea. Then, I don't know when, at some point, he said, lovely, he said. Bloody lovely, he said. And you know what? I couldn't argue. I had to agree. Thank you.
Magic. Thank you, Harry. Here's your pint.
I forgot my beer.
Thank you. Wonderful. Where am I? See, I'm hurrying a man along, and I haven't worked out where I am. You see.
The first floor.
Thank you. Right. Oh, sorry. Yes, it's another. Sorry. I'm getting there. There we are. There's too many. You see. Too many books. I haven't finished my. Right, Vivian Richards, the Sporting Heroes. Vivian Richards, arguably the greatest West Indian batsman that ever lived. After a lifetime of acute hemorrhoids, has retired. But it wasn't his arsehole we most admired. Now was it? Thank you. Now, I would have been introducing Kevin McNally at this point. Sadly, him and his wife Phyllis are down with there's some appalling infection, as indeed is Josie Lawrence, who also should have been here. So just for Kevin, in his honour, I'm going to read his favourite poem, which won't surprise you. It's short and to the point, and it's called A Notion. I don't know why I think the way I do. I don't know why I drink the way I do. But maybe they're connected in some way. Thank you. And continuing the sporting heroes, that's it, I knew it was tip of my tongue. This is called Timmy. Timmy, you fought your way up from the gutter with never a hair out of place, in the face of impossible odds to become quite a good tennis player. You may be rather dull, but you are rather English and not Canadian, which is why we love you, Timmy. Thank you. And this is called Glen Hoddle. You need a bit of memory from the past for this one, but I hope you can cast your mind back to when he was manager of England and something happened. And this is called Glen Hoddle. Glen Hoddle, Glen Hoddle, life was a doddle until you opened your gobble and came out with that twaddle about things you know sod all about. Do you think God will look out for you in your next life? I wouldn't hold your breath, mate. Thank you. And now our last, I've been told she's only prepared to read one poem, but our last reader tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is a very special lady. For those of you who have this book, all the amazing illustrations which make people laugh possibly more than the poems were done by this extraordinary lady, who's a great actress, a great friend forever, and has just been so lovely in keeping me going, really, when we were doing this book, and she's been so lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Sheila Ruskin.
Will you read a poem, he said. I said, no, absolutely not. I'll stick to the drawing. And then he said, go on. So I said, one and one only. And this is one of my favourites. So, Sunflower. My first sunflower came out this morn at 6 o'clock in my window box. Tall, lean, yellow, and beautiful. Standing there, swaying slightly in the dawn summer breeze, head bowed, looking down on me. I grew you, I say. You're all mine. Was that a smile?
Now, how are you doing? It's 10:10. Are we all right for a few more? What do you think?
Wind it up.
A couple more? Okay. What is? Fuck off, Harry.
We want to have time to sell the book before.
Oh yes, we're going to sell the books. Yes. What am I looking for now? Oh yes, I know. Okay. This is a little dipstick, ladies and gentlemen, which is 2 poems. If it was three poems, it would be a triptych, but this is a dipstick. And this is called Cold Fish. Would it be that what I see before me is a chair? And would it be from what I see that no one's sitting there? So would it seem from what I glean that I am on my Todd? 'Cause you're not here, that much is clear. And I bought this deep fried cod. You sod. Thank you. And this is called Cold Fish 2. I dreamt that you were there in my own front room. I dreamt your arms were round me. We'd formed a love cocoon, protected from the outside, protected from within. You brought the ice and tonic. I supplied the gin. You cheapskate. Thank you. There we go. Right, let's see what the next one is. Right, innocence is bliss. I'd love to be a kid again and make sandcastles in the sand and frolic by the sea naked, my gland exposed, innocently gazing upon the world and all the pretty girls. I'd choose you. I'd hold your hand and we'd make sandcastles in the sand. Just you and me, naked. My submarine and your harbour, exposed for all to see, innocently gazing upon the world. We'd make a love pact up a tree, a pledge for all eternity. Then you'd go off and play with Tommy. But I wouldn't be jealous. I wouldn't know what it meant. I'd return to the sand and build a moat around our land, our castle by the sea, innocently gazing upon the world. Thank you. Right, I'm now going to just read 2 more, and that's it. Is that all right? Yeah. Because this is one of my favourite poems, and I really feel I ought to do it tonight if I can find them. God, you work these things out so carefully, don't you? And when it comes to it, it gets right up the shit. Right. God, pages, turn over, please. Right. Now, acute stress can reveal itself in many ways. With me, it tends to be losing or mislaying something of little or no significance whatsoever. But it must be found. The sacred Bic. My Bic, where's my Bic? I had it there. It was here, clear as daylight, in my hand. Is this a trick? Where is my Bic? I can buy another one. That's not the point. I don't need it now. That's not the point either. This is fucking sick. Someone's nicked my Bic, no one move. No one will leave this room. I'll assume everyone is guilty until you empty your pockets and prove without a doubt you do not have a Bic. My Bic! And I'd know my Bic in a crowd of Bics. About your person, I've got all night. I will strip search if necessary, if needs be. Check every nook, every cranny. Shit. Found it, look. It's in my pocket all along. Sorry about that. Carry on. Shopping. Had to check it out. Whatever. Thank you. And although there's masses I haven't read, but I think this is probably enough for tonight. This is my last poem. Now, Johnny Depp, the famous film star, paid £11,000 for a bottle of wine in a restaurant. I mean, what the fuck's that all about? And this is called Johnny Depp, the famous film star, paid £11,000 for a bottle of wine in a restaurant. I mean, what the fuck is that all about? Johnny Depp, the famous film star, paid £11,000 for a bottle of wine in a restaurant. I mean, what the fuck is that all about? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Your help. Books are available, Soph's in charge. Thank you all, and thank you to my guests. You were absolutely wonderful.